No family really cares about what government department or body or acronym is caring for their children, but they want to know that someone's got their backs. Hi, I'm Amy Graham and I'm here on Ghanaland with Caroline Croser-Barlow to answer a series of questions that will provide some context into the Early Childhood Education and Care Commission. Caroline, what exactly is an Early Education and Care Commission, and why is the government talking about creating one now?
What is an Early Education Commission? That remains to be seen, but very excitingly, on the 17th of July, the education ministers from around Australia came together and said, boy, we really should get something to be in charge of this early childhood education system that families rely on. And so they've committed to actually looking at creating something called a commission, and that's why we're talking about it.
How exciting.
It is. What problem does this solve that the current system can't?
We already have a lot of people involved in early childhood education and care. We've got people funding it, we've got people regulating it, and we've got people providing it. So everyone's doing their bit. But there's no actual body that's looking at the whole system. So looking at the quality, looking at the children that are missing out, looking at the children and the areas that have too much, looking at the children that are in the areas that have too much but are still missing out. So this would do all of those things. It would be able to look at all the pieces of the system and hopefully bring it together. Could this make children safer, or is broader reform needed?
I'm going to be like the kid on the taco ad. Why can't we have both? Because I feel like it can both make children safer because it will help with things like visibility of workforce across the whole sector. So it might, for a commission, for example, might look after the educator register. It might make sure that regulators are on track to meet their targets in terms of how many services they're visiting and all those sorts of things. More broadly, what it will help us do is understand patterns and trends of kind of where quality is emerging and what that looks like. And what we know is that safety and quality are really closely linked. So we don't just want a service where kids are told they can never go outside because they might fall over and be unsafe, right? Like we want services where kids get to explore and grow and play. And that requires really quality interactions between the adults and the children in a service. So what a commission can do is it can help us understand what are the conditions that build quality. Are we getting the right workforce? Are we getting the right levels of funding into services? Are we providing the right kinds of activities in those? And it can share that across the system. Would we want more reform? Of course we always want more reform. I'm a reform junkie, happy to bring on more reform. Let's get more funding. Let's get more things happening in terms of educator pipeline. One of the things that a commission will be able to do is come up with new ideas for reform, and it will be able to help and support governments in thinking about that as well. So why can't we have both?
I agree. And I think it's a start, right?
Yep.
Like we have to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
And safer services will lead to a stronger system.
Absolutely.
But we have to start somewhere. So I agree. It's not a silver bullet, but it's a great start.
Perfect. So how would a commission help families who are struggling?
I think this is one of the most exciting things for me with my background. Like I want to see it impact families. I haven't spoken to a family yet, me included, that goes, wow, can't wait for a commission. But what I want is that every child has a place that they feel safe in, they feel included in, their families can access, their parents can pay for. Those things are the things that matters to families. So I feel like it's not about the commission. No family really cares about what government department or body or acronym is caring for their children, but they want to know that someone's got their back. Someone's got the whole system in mind. And so I think at a practical level, if you look at like roads, I trust that those roads have been built and I can just travel on them. Yeah. And I think that's what we want for the system. That's what we want for families, that they can just absolutely, fully confidently feel my child's cared for, my child's in a high quality place, my child has educators that are well supported, that I live in this community and I can access a service that I really care about. What do you think?
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it? Like we imagine that when we go into a building, like all the plumbing and the wiring has been done, and we assume that like someone drew a map of it. Exactly. exactly, right. And you're like, I'm sure that the electrician hooked up all the right things. Yeah. We have an early childhood system that has kind of grown a bit like mould without any particular kind of structure or intention. And we haven't made sure that it gets to the edges, that quality is everywhere, that everyone has access to the right thing. And so for me, it's exactly that question of like a commission is about making sure that we've actually got the plumbing and wiring right. And at the moment, it's nobody's job to make sure that that is happening.
And yet so many people care about it. Like there are educators in so many services. Almost every single service has the most high quality educators, and they really, really care about the children and families that they work with. Yeah. So we kind of owe it to them to give them the system behind them, give them the backing.
Absolutely.
Like, we've got your back. You just do your job. We'll do our job up the pipeline for a system.
Exactly right.
What are the biggest risks if Australia does nothing?
So the way I kind of look at what's happening in early childhood is I kind of think we have put lots and lots of money on the table in the form of the childcare subsidy, like lots of money, and until recently haven't put a lot of thought into making sure that that money is used to ensure that people get the services that they need in the quality places where they need. And so I think if we don't enter into some kind of more active stewardship of what's going on in the market, we're going to end up with more of what we've been seeing, which is lots of supply in areas where families can afford to pay for services, and that encourages services to open there, and more undersupply in areas where families can't afford to pay or where there aren't many families, and so you kind of don't get the provision right. I also think we're going to see a challenge with ensuring that we've got the right workforce. Like essentially when I drop off my kids at early childhood education and care, all I want to know is that they're seeing the same person who makes them smile, right? Like you just want to see that kind of beautiful relationship between your kid and their educator.
The same person.
The same person. Really, really important. We've all peeled the kid off our legs and handed them to the casual, and we know how hard that is, right? They're like, I don't want to go to them. I want Robbie. Robbie was my child's very, very favourite educator.
And some won't go to Robbie.
And some won't go to Robbie, exactly. So I think there's something about like if we don't intentionally plan and ensure and think about how are we going to make sure that our workforce stays in the area? Are we tracking? Are people staying? Which people are leaving? What do we need to do that? At the moment, it's literally nobody's job. So the states and territories in the Commonwealth, they kind of do this whack-a-mole thing where they're like, oh, maybe we'll offer a little grant over here or we'll do a little thing over there. But no one's looking at the whole thing saying, actually, how do we ensure that we keep and retain the educators that our families need, that we've got services in the right spots? That's what's missing. And if we don't do something, then we'll just kind of see this increasing fragmentation where some people get a good service and other people don't get anything at all.
It's like a potluck. And I think we have so much data, don't we? But it's not really brought together. So there's a lot of data, but we don't share it well. Absolutely. We don't communicate it with families.
Yeah, absolutely. And even silly things like, so the federal government's really responsible for childcare, which is kind of, you know, babies and in the kind of long day care settings. And states and territories do a lot in preschool or kinder, like in the year or a couple of years before school. And honestly, we don't even have a system that tells us clearly which kids are attending what and for how much and what does that look like. And we don't bring those things together. And so there's lots of really good work underway on that, but it kind of happens almost in spite of things rather than because there's an intentional piece of work. And it's really, really hard. Every time people want to do stuff together between the states and the territories and the Commonwealth, it takes a lot of effort to kind of make that happen. A commission would build a place for that kind of sharing and that kind of working together.
Yeah, that's stewardship.
That's stewardship.
And I think not to dwell on what's happened, but there obviously have been child safety concerns. And so for me, imagine if that got worse.
Yeah.
You know, and this is not why a commission is needed, but it is certainly, if we don't do something, those things could get worse.
Oh, it's so interesting because I feel like my anxiety about I feel like the thing we're likely to get right even without a commission is safety. Like that is the easiest thing to get right in one way, because you can put in place lots of rules. Like you can make sure you have CCTV in every corner. You can have, lots of really rigid rules about kind of educator register, which is something we're doing now, like tracking where people are working. What's missing from that? Like a compliance perspective gets you something, but it doesn't get you quality. It doesn't get you the richness and warmth of high quality relationships. So I guess one of my worries is that if we don't think about it as a system and we just think the job is to make sure that children are safe and safe is the only thing, then we're going to miss the part of what is the opportunity of quality. So I think, governments are really motivated to respond to safety. They're kind of less motivated to think about the kind of broader opportunities in early childhood education and care. And that, I think, is what we miss out on. Hey, Amy, could a commission help address educator shortages and sector turnover?
I think so. Workforce shortages affect everything from quality to access. Like you said, if we don't have great educators, we don't have quality, and then we don't have the kinds of environments that we need children to thrive in. So I think that a commission could look at why workforce is a problem, where it's a problem, why educators are leaving, how can we get them to return, how can we keep them in the sector. So I think that workforce shortages are an area for the Commission to look at, and I really hope that that's one of the first things that they address.
And it's funny because I think the educator pipeline is one of those things that has lots of different parts of government and universities and TAFE and VET and all these different sectors that are involved. And sometimes it's really hard for all those conversations to happen in one place. So I feel really excited by the opportunity that a commission could work closely with Jobs and Skills Australia and with the universities and with the VET sector to kind of think about how are we making sure that we're getting exactly the right kind of skills and competencies and attracting the right people, making it really easy for them to do their qualifications and kind of bring them into the system that way. And at the moment, there's no place for that conversation. The states and territories care a little bit because they worry about who's going to deliver their preschool. The Commonwealth cares a lot about workforce in that they've put a lot of money into the worker retention payment, which is brilliant. But
paid pracs.
Another excellent example, right? Like, so the Commonwealth is doing bits and pieces, states and territories are doing bits and pieces, but no one's saying actually what of these are the best investments? Where should we go hard? What's working? How do we make sure we get that everywhere and it's not just stuck in some parts of Australia and not in other parts of Australia? So I think like this is a place where there's a real opportunity to bring together a system-wide perspective and kind of coalesce some system-wide action.
And arguably for me, there's no more important job than educating and caring for our children the first 5 years. Like, it is the most important job. We know they could be paid more. We know they could be treated better. It's a tough job.
It is a really tough job.
I would love to see someone caring for these educators and saying, hey, what do you need? Why don't you want to work in this sector? How can we help?
Exactly right.
Australia spends billions on ECEC each year. Who's responsible?
Good question. Well asked. And I think that's exactly why we need a commission, because at the moment we have a kind of two main sources of funding. So one of them comes from the Commonwealth. It's in the form of a childcare subsidy. And actually that's a voucher that sits with me as the parent and it gets paid to my service, right? So actually the Commonwealth's relationship is with me, not with the service. So the Commonwealth doesn't really fund services. The Commonwealth funds parents to buy stuff at early childhood education and care services.
And do you feel like you can use that? Like, do you just go, I'll just go to the next, I'll just vote with my feet?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can go to another service, but it doesn't, what it means is that the Commonwealth doesn't have like a really strong relationship with the service to say, I would like it to be better. I would like you to do different things. Yeah. I would like you to focus on that. So that's one big source of funding, and the Commonwealth is getting better and leaning in on how it might use its money. And then the other one is that the states and territories provide preschool, and they spend a fair bit of money on making sure, much more like our public schools, right? Like that there is something there, that every family can go along and access something there. So we spend billions. Who's responsible? I mean, kind of. you as a parent, as a consumer with your choice. But of course, like we know people only choose in a very small amount of, within a particular area, and there's not much choice. Exactly. So at the moment, no one. That is the problem. No one is responsible. We kind of leave it to the market and see what happens.
And in one way, I think as a parent, I felt like there were lots of people responsible. I felt like there were lots of governments involved.
Yeah.
So I thought, they've got this. I don't really feel that anymore.
Have you ever heard that phrase, too many cooks in the kitchen?
Absolutely.
Like there are lots of people involved. There's the regulators. They're making sure that the rules are enforced. There's the Commonwealth. They're making sure that the money goes. There's the policy people in the departments. They're making sure that we've got an early years learning framework that is used. But who is making sure that that adds up to an experience of a system that works for everyone? No one at the moment.
There's no head chef.
There's no head chef. Yes, chef. So, Amy, if you were designing the commission, how would you set it up?
Look, I'd start with consulting. I'd start with bringing in the sector. I'd bring in the voice of families, children if you can, certainly educators, providers, every level. So I'd really start with listening to them and what they need. And I'd like it to start with tracking supply. I'd like them to track quality. I'd like them to address the really big things that matter. But I think if I had one first job, just listen. Yeah. Just listen to the experts. And they're the people that are doing the job every day. They're the families that are involved in dropping their children off, picking their children up, listening to their children about their experience of quality. What do you like when you go to early childhood education and care? Get into those communities that have too many services. Get into those communities that don't have enough, and just listen.
Yeah, I love that. I kind of imagine it's like the worst version of a commission is another layer over the top of all of these other things that are already happening, like a hierarchy of like just more bureaucracy. And for me, it's like the best version of it is like, I don't know, the chocolate soup in which we kind of like it's going to connect all the bits together. So it's like it fills in between the gaps. It joins the parts of the system together rather than kind of layering over more. I think it's really about connecting what we've got. And as you say, what we've got is a system filled with passionate people who really care about outcomes and who have insights into what would make things easier, what would make it better. And so I think that feels to me like a really important function.
And we have this data. We have a lot of data.
Agreed.
Do we use it well? Yeah.
We do not use it.
So that's another job for the commission.
Absolutely. So, Amy, what would success look like for you?
For me, success has to be born out of what children and families are experiencing. So if I look a few years on, children and families are the ones that will notice the difference. We'd have more educators. We'd have more educators staying in the job, more committed to their staying in that role. So I think for children and families, they would feel that they were welcomed in a service, they could access it, they could afford it, they can get there easily, their needs are met. For a community level, they would feel that they have the right mix. So something would change at a family level, at a community level, and of course at a workforce level. For governments, I'd hope that they're also recognising that they're saving money really, because if we get it right in these years, we get it right for the long term.
There's something about how people will feel. It's really important to me that people will feel a sense of confidence in the system. I was talking with a group of providers the other day, and they were talking about like how hard it is when they talk at the system level. There's a lot of anxiety and kind of, is there enough money? Is there enough da-da-da-da-da? And then they go into the services and they reconnect with the joy of the educator and the child having this like great learning experience, right? And I think there's something about a system stewardship approach that reconnects us with the idea that actually we can do this. We can deliver a system that delivers these joyful, enriching experiences for children everywhere, right? And we won't feel like the world is happening to the sector and no one kind of knows what's going to be happening next and that governments are playing whack-a-mole and that we're uncertain and worried about the future. We'll feel a sense of confidence, right? That we've got an architecture that's going to be spotting the problems as they come. It's going to put some plans in place and we're going to know, we've thought about what we're going to do in workforce supply. We're learning what's working. We're building towards it. You don't have to spend your whole time putting your hand up saying, government, worry about this problem, worry about that problem. There's not enough supply. There's too much supply. You know, people will be able to feel calmer about the direction of the system and know that there's a way of resolving some of these questions. And then that's going to let us all remember the wonderful work that's happening in early childhood education and care services every day.
And we'll have a head chef.
That's exactly right. Yes, chef. So hopefully that's given you a good sense of what's going on in early childhood education and care in Australia today and why we might be seeing an early education commission.
If you enjoyed this, then please like, subscribe and watch another episode on our channel.